U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in India on a high-level diplomatic visit after visiting Kolkata. He visited national capital New Delhi, where he met Prime Minister Narendra Modi. His visit to India comes at a sensitive time in the U.S.-India ties. After a short Kolkata visit, Rubio arrived in New Delhi, where he was received by Additional Secretary Nagaraj Naidu. Trump's top diplomat met India's Prime Minister at the Seva in New Delhi. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and NSA Ajit Doval are also part of the meeting. High-stakes talks focused on shoring up U.S.-India cooperation across security, trade and tech, with the U.S. calling India a vital partner. After the meeting, the Prime Minister of India put out a post on X saying that the discussions also focused on issues related to global peace and security, where Rubio shared his views about the situation in West Asia. The Prime Minister of India also reaffirmed India's support for peace efforts. After the meeting, Rubio also delivered remarks at a U.S. Embassy Support Annex building dedication ceremony. Rubio, in his remarks, mentioned that the building is a sign of commitment cooperation between the two nations.
I think, as Ambassador Gore outlined a moment ago, the building stands as more than just brick and mortar. It's more than just the structure. It is, I hope, a sign of our commitment to this important relationship between the United States and India. It is, this relationship between our two countries is at the cornerstone of our approach to the Indo-Pacific.
Earlier, after attending NATO talks in Sweden, Rubio arrived in Kolkata in West Bengal, where he was received by U.S. Ambassador to India, Sergio Gore. He and his wife then visited Mother Teresa's Missionaries in Charity. Founded by Mother Teresa, the Catholic congregation is known worldwide for its work with the poor, the sick, and the destitute. Marco Rubio then paid tribute at the tomb of the Nobel laureate who was canonized a saint by Pope John Paul II. Rubio also toured the place where she lived and worked. In a social media post, Rubio said that he was honored to visit the Missionaries of Charity and pay homage to Mother Teresa's legacy and see the living example of the Catholic faith in action. The secretary also visited a children's home, Nirmala Sishu Bhavan, run by the Missionaries of Charity in the city. Ahead of his visit, Rubio said the U.S. is ready to sell India as much energy as it is willing to buy. He has described India as a great ally and partner. Rubio's remarks are part of a broader effort by Washington to reassure India at a time when both sides are trying to manage new strategic and political differences. Let's now talk to our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibol. He's now joining us live from New Delhi. Siddhant, the Secretary of State has just inaugurated a complex at the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi. I understand you are at the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi. What's the itinerary for the Secretary of State in the coming 2 days?
Well, I'm standing at the same location where the U.S. Secretary of State inaugurated this very building behind me, which will help in consular processes. And this was his first public event since landing in India, day one today. And of course, it was packed both in Kolkata and here in Delhi. In fact, he came to this location from meeting the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the readouts by both India and the US are out with focus on the following things. First, of course, the American side has invited the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit US. But the big question is that technically on reciprocity, it is Donald Trump's turn to come to India, given the fact that the Indian Prime Minister has been to United States in February of last year. The second, of course, is on the West Asia crisis, a crisis which has a bearing and impact globally, with the global south being impacted by the inflationary pressure. Now, of course, there are questions across the world over the American strikes that led to the cascading process that ultimately right now stands at closure of Hormuz in many ways, and that of course raises the questions over its impact on the global food, fuel and energy prices. The third of course is on the bilateral aspect, the India-US relationship. It looks like the relationship is at its worst in over 20 years, and the focus remains as to how this visit can essentially help in making sure that the relationship can come back on the track. So far, of course, we know that this visit will have several elements, including the US Secretary of State traveling to Agra and Jaipur. He holds meeting with the Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Sunday. There will be a press briefing thereafter. And the final day, that's Tuesday, we will see the Quad foreign ministers meeting. Quad, of course, started with fanfare, but a lot of questions today with no summit happening last year, and questions over summits happening or whether it's materializing this year is something that everyone is keen to know. Now, we also know that Quad's focus has been on the Indo-Pacific, but there has been increased engagement between United States and China, and its impact on Quad on the global geopolitics is something that is being clearly noticed or of course studied as well. But here an important visit of the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio to India, which of course is the big story, and of course its impact on the India-US relationship.
Very briefly, now that we're talking about the importance of the state visit by the State Secretary, he said that this is his first visit to India as a US State Secretary. He chose 4 areas to visit, that is Kolkata, you just said New Delhi, and Jaipur, and also Agra. The significance of his visit to these 4 areas.
Well, the significance here in Delhi is, of course, it's the political capital. He had meeting with the Prime Minister, the call-on with the Prime Minister. He holds meeting with the Indian External Affairs Minister, the Quad Foreign Minister. So essentially the big political focus. Kolkata, of course, focus on essentially his visit to the tomb of Mother Teresa, paying his homage here. There and now Agra and Jaipur, of course, is part of the famous golden triangle of tourism, and that primarily is part of perhaps to use the phrase sightseeing here in India. Going to Taj Mahal and going to the cultural capital of India, Jaipur, is something that is on the agenda of many tourists coming to India, and in this case it's the US Secretary of State. So that of course is the lighter part of a very heavy visit, a visit that can have implications on the relationship and perhaps give direction to the relationship at a time when the gains of last 20 years have been essentially seen a reversal because of Donald Trump's insults and tariffs on India.
That is our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Sidhan Subol, at the US Embassy in New Delhi. Thank you, Sidhan.